How is it going, guys? And welcome back to a new episode with some Pod Limit Oma content. In today's episode, I'm going to give you the top 3 reasons for 3-betting preflop in Pod Limit Oma. If you're new to the game of PLO, or if you just started out, it is very likely that you're currently not 3-betting enough hands. And therefore today, I'm going to provide you insights and ideas on why we are 3-betting in the first place, and I'm going to give you hand examples that will illustrate how you can improve your game. And if that sounds interesting, then make sure to give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and without further ado, I would say let's get immediately into the content. And we're starting off with why do we 3-bet in the first place? The number one reason why we should 3-bet pre-flop when we are playing poker is because we want to build a pot with a strong hand. In other words, we have a high equity hand that is pushing an advantage against your opponent's open raising range. We want to build a pot and give ourselves a better chance to win more money. Now, whenever we build a pot with value, we need to make sure that we add in bluffs so our value actually gets paid off. And that's where equity denial comes into play. We're building a pot, we're 3-betting, where we generate fold equity. So A, we can win the pot immediately if our opponent folds. But B, we need bluffs, otherwise our value will never get paid off. So we become more unpredictable and more difficult to play if we make sure that we also have bluffs in our 3-betting range. And lastly, we 3-bet a good amount of our hands for playability reasons, that I would call them. These are sort of our semi-bluffs. These are hands that are multi-component hands, so we have several things going on. For example, a hand that is strongly connected and double-suited, but isn't necessarily a premium hand. Many of these hands we still decide to 3-bet. And often this is because that hand plays a lot better against a one opponent if we 3-bet than if we would decide to call and play potentially a multi-way pot. So this is what we call the pushing versus pulling effect. Some hands we push in the hope to push players behind us out of the pot and that way play a heads-up pot. Or some hands we rather pull, especially hands that have a lot of nutted components that perform really well in multi-way pots but don't necessarily play amazing in a low SPR situation. So these are the 3 main reasons why we 3-bet. Now there are 2 main forces that impact the decision whether to 3-bet or not. The first one is your opponent's open raising range, and the second one is your own position. Let me give you guys 2 examples, one for each, and I want to ask you to actively think with me. So in this first example, we're looking at the impact of your opponent's open raising range. On the left side and on the right side, we are sitting in the small blind. Now on the left side, we face an under the gun open. On the right side, we face a button open. In which of these situations do we 3-bet more often? Is that on the left or on the right? And bonus points if you know the exact frequency. Now the answer is that on the left, we 3-bet 4.8%, so a relatively tight range, while on the right, we 3-bet 9.2%. In other words, against the button, we 3-bet more often than against under the gun. Now what is happening here is that the player from under the gun is open raising with a very tight range that mainly consists of very strong hands, while the player on the button is open raising around 50% of the hands. Therefore, his range is a lot wider and contains many more weaker hands, and against that range, we can actually 3-bet a lot more often. So this is the impact of your opponent's open raising range. Against a wider range, we can 3-bet more often. Next up, let's discuss the impact of your position. In this scenario, on the left side, we are on the button and we face a cutoff raise, so we are in position. And on the right side, we sit in the small blind, also against the cutoff raise, but this time we are out of position. So we face the same range, the same opponent, but is there a difference in the strategy? What do you think are the frequencies, and in which scenario should we 3-bet more often? Well, the answer is that on the left side, we are supposed to 3-bet 8.7%, and on the right side, 6.8%. So we're 3-betting more often on the button against the cutoff. And this is because of 2 key reasons. Reason number 1 is because in the left example, we are in position. And our positional advantage is worth a lot. not only pre-flop, but also on the flop, on the turn, and potentially on the river. If we are in position, we can leverage that advantage by 3-betting wider, because we do have that positional advantage. When we switch to the scenario where we're out of position, so in the small blind, you can imagine that if you 3-bet and you get called, you're gonna have to play the flop and maybe also the turn and the river out of position. And that is a disadvantage for you. Because out of position, it's a lot more difficult to realize the equity of your hand or to get to showdown. And therefore in position, you can allow yourself to 3-bet more. The second reason why we 3-bet more often when we're in position is because of the effect of fold equity. Whenever we 3-bet out of position, our opponent is incentivized to continue with a lot of hands because your opponent now is in position. However, when we switch the situation and now we are the one in position and we 3-bet, now our opponent is out of position. For example, in a situation butt-off versus cutoff. And the cutoff now is supposed to do a lot of folding because he is going to play out of position, not only pre-flop, but also on the flop, turn, and river. So we have more fold equity if we 3-bet pre-flop, and that is a huge benefit in 3-betting. Especially when we think about 3-betting our hands that don't push a ton of equity. Like those hands benefit a lot from pre-flop fold equity. So the more fold equity you have, the more benefit there is in 3-betting. And therefore on the left side, we can 3-bet more often. Now let's open PLO Trainer, dive deeper into the pre-flop 3-bet strategy, show some examples, and also give you more information on how to construct your 3-betting range. Let me interrupt you guys for a brief moment and share some exciting news with all of you, because you can now get access to PLO Trainer completely for free by getting into the PLO Trainer pre-flop pass. By clicking on the link below and creating a free account at plomastermind.com, you can get access completely for free to the 4-card PLO Trainer and the 5-card PLO Trainer. You will have access to our small stakes, a 100 big blind pre-flop solution, and you can study and train as much as you like to improve your game that way. So if that sounds exciting to you, then make sure to click on the link below the video, create an account, and get started immediately by improving your pot limit OMA pre-flop game. I want to start off with the value part of the 3-betting range, and I'm using a small blind against a button steal example. You will have access to this yourself as well. This is the exact pre-flop solution that is part of the pre-flop pass. And I do recommend you guys to check it out yourself and do some training. Now on the right side in the 3-betting range, we do see a 9.2% 3-bet against the button steal. And if we start off with the best hands in our range, aces, obviously 3-betting almost always 93.8%. You can see the EV attached to it. The best hand is winning over 9 big blinds by 3-betting. So that's a huge amount. There are only a few aces in the middle that we're calling, like the most disconnected rainbow ones are going to be a call, and the trip aces that are rainbow on the left side are going to be a fold. Now, if I remove aces from the 3-betting range, the next best hand class will be the kings, and especially double suited kings with an ace or double suited kings that are strongly connected. Those are our high equity hands. We're 3-betting for value, we're building a pot, and we're pushing a lot of equity against a 50% range. But also single suited kings, if we scroll down a little bit further, hands like ace, king, king 4. So again, if you have an ace, we're pretty much always 3-betting, unless we are rainbow or triple suited. Other than that, we are 3-betting. But also if we don't have an ace, but we are, for example, single suited, we will see there are some 3-bets in there. King, king, queen, queen, or hands like king, king, 10, 7. Connected hands, pushing equity against a button's range. Those are the 3-bets for value. There's some more hands that we're 3-betting for value. Let's say we have ace, queen, queen, especially double suited, very strong hands, pushing equity. So let's build a pot for value. And the same goes for ace, jack, jack, for example, especially if you're double suited and connected. These are hands that push a lot of equity. Let's focus on the bluffs in our 3-betting range. So we know that we have a lot of value and strong hands. We're building a pot. And as mentioned, we want to add in some bluffs to become tougher to play against, to make sure that our value gets paid off. But also we can generate fold equity if we 3-bet and take the pot down immediately. So to illustrate that, like if I 3-bet and the action is on the button is supposed to fold like almost 20% of all his hands. And taking down the pot pre-flop, of course, is a huge success. So what are hands that we are 3-betting as a bluff out of this region? Well, if we scroll down a bit, we see a hand like Ace, Jack, 10, 9, unsuited to the ace, where we do benefit from fold equity. We unblock kings and queens, which are a hand class that our opponent should fold quite a bit. And the hand is definitely not strong enough to call in the small blind being out of position. Another example could be Ace, King, 10, 8. Here we are holding decent connectivity. We do have the king high suit, for example, with the bottom examples. We're not pushing a large equity edge at all, but we do have several things going on. And if we face a 4-bet, we're going to fold. Now, the best thing you can do to discover your 3-bet bluffing range is to go to the situation where you do face a 4-bet and take a look into what hands you're supposed to fold. So we see hands like Ace, Queen, Queen, Deuce, single suited, Ace, 9, 7, 5, double suited. Especially hands with an ace, they don't perform great against a 4-bet because your opponent very often has ace, ace, and your out is almost dead and you're heavily dominated. Lastly, if we take a look into the hands that we 3-bet more for playability reasons, these are hands that have a lot of things going on but don't push a large equity edge. I'm scrolling to a hand like King, 10, 8, 7, double suited. Classic hand that is non-nutted in the sense that we don't have the ace high suit, but we're double suited, we are connected, we're high card heavy, so we have a lot of things going on. And on many flops, this hand will flop very smooth. In other words, we're strong enough to bet and stack off, which is something that is very important in 3-bet pots. The last thing we want to do is we want to build a pot with a hand that is unable to stack off on the flop. So therefore, hands that are strongly connected, double suited, high card heavy, like these are hands that we like to 3-bet for playability reasons because they play a lot better versus one opponent than versus, for example, 2 opponents, because we're so non-nutted in terms of the suitedness. Another example could be a hand like King, Jack, 9, 7, or a hand like Jack, 9, 8, 7. Like these are 3-bets that we don't necessarily push a ton of equity with, but we have a lot of things going on. And also these hands can call if our opponent would 4-bet. Finally, guys, I want to share a couple of hands that I'm training. So show you how to use the training feature in PLO Trainer. And I do recommend you, if you want to improve your game, to do this yourself as well. After the video, jump into PLO Trainer, start a training session, and test yourself small blind against the button. Okay, few hands. Queen, Queen, Jack, 8, triple suited. We do have a high pair, we do have some connectivity, but I would say this hand is a little bit too marginal, especially because we are triple suited. So I'm going to go for a fold, which is correct. On the right side, we see the result window, and in green, it shows correct. Jack, Jack, 10, 7, single. A little bit better because we only have 2 spades now, but I would still say it's still a fold, maybe a call. I'm probably going to go for a fold. Ace, King, Jack, 6. This is a hand where we are high card heavy. We are double suited. We have an ace. We are connected. So this is a hand where 3-betting makes a lot of sense, which is the correct play. And then Queen, Queen, Jack, Deuce. I think this is close between call or 3-bet. We much rather 3-bet, I think, if the Deuce is stronger connected with the other side cards. So probably call is okay. But it might be very, very close. And it turns out to be very close. If we look into the EV of calling is minus 0.36 big blind, and the EV of 3-betting is minus 0.44. So not a huge difference there. Queen, 8, 8, 7 double. Straightforward fold in my book, but it is apparently a call. Very marginal, but still surprising. Jack, Jack, 9, 3. Gonna be a fold. Jack 10, 8, 7. This will also be a fold. Single suited rundowns play quite marginal, especially from the small blind out of position if the rake is high. If we would have a Jack high suit, I think calling is okay. But this one with the 8 high suit, I'm going to go for a fold. Queen, Jack, Jack, 8. Interesting because we're now much stronger connected. I'm going to go for a 3-bet, which is correct. And then let's do 3 more hands. Queen, Queen, 9, 9. 3-bet, of course. Ace, King, Queen, 3. Personally, I would call it, but it might be a mistake. And then Ace, 9, 5, 4. Feels playable. connectivity, but the 9 is quite disconnected. I think in this rake environment, it's actually just going to be a fold, which is the correct play. So guys, check it out yourself and play some hands in PLO Trainer by using the link below. Let's wrap it up, guys. But before so, take a look into the final takeaways. First of all, we're 3-betting for value. We want to build a pot with your best hands. Secondly, we need to add in bluffs and challenge your opponents. We generate fold equity, but also we make sure that our value gets paid off this way. And lastly, we are 3-betting for playability reasons with hands that are multi-component hands, basically. These hands don't perform well against multiple players, but against one opponent, they do really well, especially when the SPR gets lower. Okay, that's gonna wrap it up, guys, for today. Hope you did enjoy it. Make sure to give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and also click on the link below, guys. Check out PLO Trainer, jump in there, and start improving your pre-flop game.